Now, I must say congratulations as well to everybody who took part in the Benali on Tour event, which was on this weekend in aid of the Saints Foundation, walking over 30 miles around the Isle of Wight, starting and finishing at St Mary's. I caught up with Franny last week, just before they set off. And of course, I had to get his thoughts on this miserable season.
And panned out how any of us would have hoped. I mean, it's a big question, but what's gone wrong in your eyes? What's not worked this year? Or is it a number of things?
Yeah, I mean, where do you start and how long do we have, Martin? It's I don't think it's any one thing. I really don't. I mean, I'm closely connected with the club. It's been a huge part of my life, and I love having the connection that I have with the club now, with the foundation, with the club as an ambassador as well. Um, it's tough for all of us. Everybody wants to do well. We want success, whatever that might look like for us as a football club. But you can't deny this season's been a pretty dreadful one on the pitch, and it's a shame because there's so much hard work that is going on, not just by the team and the staff, but the various members of the team and people at the club that are working hard off the pitch as well to make everything come together and be a success. And it's just a shame that results on the pitch this season haven't worked out. And as I say, it's not just any one reason. There's probably a combination of reasons and a number that have meant that we've only won those 2 games this season, which seems crazy, really, saying that. But we've got to always look forward, learn from this. I think that's a big thing as well. If you come through any adversity or difficult times, you've got to learn lessons from that and reflect upon it. It's all well and good looking back on the good times and enjoying those and thinking that they're going to be there forever. And football's not like that. Life's not like that. Everyone faces difficulties, setbacks. It's how you respond to it and how you learn from those lessons. So, there'll be that time of reflection, I'm sure, once the final whistle blows against Arsenal on Sunday, and then it's very much working towards and thinking towards what can be a successful season next year.
A lot of people have said that we needed a Benali, a Dodd, a Letizier in the dressing room, like a big character that could drive everybody on. Do you think those type of players still exist, or is it unfair on modern footballers to say? Often the accusation is that they don't care or they're not trying. Is that unfair?
They care, yeah. They care for sure. I mean, sometimes as supporters, it's easy to think that they don't care and they don't maybe show what we see or perceive as wanting to be as successful, giving everything. But football is different, and players are different now. But I guess to label them sort of not wanting to be successful and give everything, I just the name that pops in my head straight away would be our captain Jack Stevens. If there's somebody that gives everything, wants the best for the football club, wants to be successful, whatever that looks like, and the aim is, he typifies that. And I know he comes in for quite a bit of criticism from some sections of the supporters. I was there, I had it as a player, and I sort of I sympathise for that, but I know what Jack's like and what it means to him as well. And so you need people like that within the dressing room, and not everybody's like that. Maybe Jack is a little bit sort of like the old school, sort of kind of personalities and characters from my kind of era, as you mentioned with the other guys. And you need people like that. Everybody's different, and the sport's different, and the game's different now. But the one thing that remains is like the love and the passion that we all have for our football club, and that's just been typified, hasn't it, by the support that. In a season that the supporters could very easily have turned on the team and on the club, they haven't done that. There might have been moments where there's been moans and groans, but and that would have been completely justified as well, given the season we've had. But on the whole, the support has been absolutely incredible. So I certainly hope that that what we see on the pitch next season is some kind of payback for the support they've had this year.
Well, the new manager looks like will be announced soon. What's he got to do first? Is it about morale or getting in and having a look under the bonnet?
I've always come back to this personally. I know there's a turnover of managers, and this one, I think, for the club and Sport Republic they've got to get this one right. There's it hasn't worked out, with some of the recent sort of appointments, and it's a big one. It's a big summer for us. There'll be coming and goings with players, I'm sure, and whoever comes in and is appointed as the manager, it's going to be a big job, but it's an exciting one, and hopefully one that will be a successful one next season. But I think I'd like to see someone in the position for some time that can hopefully build our way back to the Premier League and bring players through from the academy. We love that as players, and as somebody that's come through that pathway myself, I think that'd be great to see more of. So I just know everyone behind the scenes is working towards that. So whoever is going to be the person in the hot seat, I just wish them every success. I hope it's going to be the right person and somebody that can take all of us on an upwards journey.
Let's finish with the positive. What are the positives to take into next season? You're a positive guy, aren't you? And I know you've mentioned a few. What have we got to be excited about next year? Maybe the South Coast derbies?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's for sure. I know when the fixture lists are going to be coming out, everybody, every single person, whether you're a Saints fan, a Portsmouth fan, they're looking for those two fixtures in the calendar, and when they're going to be along, because those are going to be the two biggest games for sure in so many ways, and it'd be a great opportunity to renew that rivalry again. But it's a bigger picture than that. It's not just two games against our rivals. It's the aim of bouncing back and how we respond to what has been a dreadful and shocking season for us this year. There's no two ways about it. It's you can't dress it up any other way of how it's been on the pitch. But there's an opportunity to hopefully put things right and bounce back. Whoever that's going to be at the club, in charge of the team, or the players themselves. But yeah, it'll be great to all come together, enjoy a derby or two, and maybe renew some acquaintances with sort of former Saints connections as well, with people at other clubs as well. If you're reading between the lines at this moment in time with potential appointments and things. So yeah, there's a lot to be positive and a lot to look forward to. And I think once there's that little summer break a little bit, and we put this season completely behind us. As I say, learn from it. Don't forget it, because I think the hurt of a season like this is something that you can use as fuel to propel you forward in the future. So I like to think that what we learned and what we experienced through this season never leaves us, but we use that as fuel to sort of push us forward to bigger things and more success in the future. So that's how I look at it anyway.
Amazing. Well, listen, good luck with Benali on tour. We march home. We'll all be there at St Mary's on Sunday afternoon to welcome you back. I'll keep my fingers crossed for the weather. And I know you've got a great bunch of people. You're going to have a brilliant few days, and you're going to raise a lot of money. So good luck, and thanks, Franny.
Pleasure. Take care. All the best.
I saw them all coming back, actually. They didn't look too bad, which is fair. Glen, Franny's always pretty positive. He's always quite optimistic. He's quite honest as well, I think, at times. And he kind of hit a few nails on the head there, didn't he, in terms of like what went wrong and what we need to sort of take forward. It's a big debate.
Yeah, and there's a long list. There's a long list of things. I mean, I think honesty and learning the lessons is the key to this. There's another thing that I picked up from the awards night, and a couple of people said it from the stage about, we deserve to be a Premier League club. No, we don't. No, we don't, because we haven't looked after the one thing that underpins everything, which is the first team on the pitch in the Premier League. So we are where we deserve to be. We deserve to be in the Championship, and that is something that we really have to address, and people have to acknowledge that it's not it's not worked. And Franny's exactly right in that regard, in that he's saying that we have to learn the lessons, and we can't just because we just finished a 38 game horror show, and we're now going to go into the Championship with the aim of getting back into the Premier League again. And there's a lot of work to be done to make sure that we're not, say for argument's sake, we win the playoff final next year. We'll be there thinking, here we go again. Hopefully the Will Still appointment works. And if it does, we've got a chance. Sport Republic and the ownership need to rebuild some confidence, or get some confidence from the fans in what they're doing. So yeah, there's lots of stuff to learn. I mean, what I always like about Franny is he's the voice of reason. He's not. I think because obviously he spent his entire life inside the professional football bubble, he's learned not to. That Nigel Atkins thing: don't get too high, don't get too low, and and that's one of the things that always appeals to me about his viewpoint on things. It was interesting that he wouldn't be committed on, whether players weren't trying or not. I found that an interesting one. I think there's a lot of players that you can look at, and the players should certainly be looking at themselves and questioning whether they could have done more. I think there needs to be a little bit more of that, but I don't think there's probably quite a few of the modern professional player who doesn't do that. Just to assume it's sort of like someone else's fault. But yeah, I think he's a good guy to get an opinion from. Is Franny, because of the level-headedness of everything that he says.
Was there a moment this season, Steve, or a result that kind of summed it all up for you? Was there one of the away games you went to, one of the home games, and you just thought, actually, this is not going to get any better?
Leicester
all of them
at home, maybe. Where, I mean that was kind of the archetype game at the start of the season where we'd start a game quite well. And I mean, for the first hour in that game, we were brilliant. That game should have been done and dusted. 3-0 from an own goal, 4-0 from a penalty that's correctly given, and then the remaining 25 minutes of that game don't happen. And I mean, we wouldn't be sat here having a conversation about how we stayed up and were competitive across the season, and somehow managed to relegate Tottenham, who only got 38 points. But it's still, I think that is probably the game where the depth was so woefully exposed, because you were playing against a team theoretically on a level to you. One of the other promoted teams who were equally as out of depth as we turned out to be. And yet they're the ones that have managed to use their bench to great effect to come back and to somehow turn around and win a game they had absolutely no right to do so. So I think that one was probably the one where everyone's really pissed off. Everyone's just really frustrated that we've not managed to show the sort of mental fortitude that a little bit of. I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? Of you get a little bit of sort of something goes against you, refereeing decision, a little bit of a setback in the game, and we just don't react well to it. And we've largely not reacted well all season. And actually, that was a criticism last season as well. In those two little runs of defeats, it was very similar in terms of the mental kind of questioning of senior players, whether there was that ability to kind of galvanize the rest of the team on the pitch. Because once you're sort of midway through the first half, midway through the second half, there's very little the manager can say unless you get one of those little breaks in play where you're then able to kind of get everybody over to the touchline and have a little mini team talk. There's very little a manager can do other than making substitutions. And we've seen how wonderfully effective our substitutions have been for the opposition. And
even today,
that's been the case, from the start of the season all the way through until the 89th minute of the 38th game, where one of our substitutes has weakened our midfield, and that's where they score from, to deny us a point that we probably deserved. So there's a lot to kind of pick out there. But I think that Leicester game is probably the one that sticks in my mind as being probably the only one I've got kind of really angry about in terms of how did we let that slip, in true Steven Gerrard style, of course.
I got another one. I'll just do it quickly. Bournemouth away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I think a lot of people would say Bournemouth away, wouldn't they?
Yeah, because that was the game where Russell Martin basically lost faith in everything that he'd been trying to do. He didn't pick any of our recognised strikers, which, he picked Maxwell Cornet to start the game. We had Devlin and Fernandez as false nines, no one up front. That was the game where everything was horrendous, and it was also the first game where we were 3-0 down, got back to 3-1, and then did nothing except pass the ball around. Didn't put a ball in the box, didn't do anything, and that to me was the game where I thought Russell Martin's gone. It took a few games to realise, you don't want to say sack the manager after 6 games, but looking back now, that they should have done after 6 games. Very difficult to make that decision after that amount of time, but he totally lost it in that game. He also totally lost it in the Leicester game. He made some horrendous substitutions in that game. And as Steve has said, and that Bournemouth away game, I was absolutely spitting feathers after that. That was horrific.
It must be one of the toughest years you've had, Alfie, having to write about this every bloody week. I mean, we choose to go and we pay our money to turn up. But you've been up and down the country, haven't you? You've been to all the games, and you're so intrinsically involved with it. It must be really difficult, and it must have been a really tough one for you this year.
Yeah, obviously, like I actually just tweeted before the game, just a message before the pod, just a message of thanks to everybody, because, not to my life story, but I did grow up following Twitter updates and stuff, and it looked like the coolest job in the world. So I'm really glad that I can do it. And it has been terrible. But you make the point of, you choose to go, but you also pay to go. So I don't. So, it's not. It's not the same. I don't feel sorry for me. You know what I mean, by any means. It has been obviously difficult, and the thing that's been difficult is how much it tests relationships and stuff like that, which are, it is a new experience for me in the job. I try and get on with everybody and try and be fair and honest, but over the course of the year, it tests that, and people don't want to be criticised and all this sort of stuff. So that's hard. That's hard, and I don't mind putting in the hours up and down the country to get there, because it's the best job in the world that I'm capable of doing. I'd love to play up front, obviously, but I'm terrible, so I have to do this instead. And it is, and I'm looking forward to next season for that reason, because I had so much fun in the Championship. We all did, didn't we? Going to these away games and scoring late winners, sometimes winning heavily, and I think we'll have that again in the Championship. But it's been unbelievably tough, and Bournemouth away would have been my one as well, because I felt that Bournemouth away was the one where it started to get a bit frosty at the training ground and things like that. And I wrote a piece after that match about I felt Russell Martin was just making too many changes to his team, sort of too many tactical tweaks, too many sort of personnel coming in and out. And I think that's probably something that summarised a lot of the start of the season as well, is just like no real clarity. And I guess if you want a highlight, or a low light rather, those 2 games, 15 and 16, where they got smashed by Chelsea and obviously Spurs. The atmosphere in the ground at that time, was really tough. And then it didn't really get any better really at any point in the season. So it's been a really long year, and hopefully it's better next time, because
you need a bit of time off.